You may or may not have wondered about how smell training works before, but after understanding how our sense of smell wires in the brain, you're going to be glad you did. See, we live in an affluent time where we don't have to engage in our sense of smell on a day-to-day basis, but if you look at our history as a species, we would have needed this for hundreds of thousands of years, all day, every day. We would have been smelling food to make sure it was safe all the time before we ate it. We'd be tracking animals, we'd be avoiding predators, we'd be sensing danger. Our sense of smell has been crucial for our survival for most of our history. So when we underutilize our sense of smell through most of our lifetime, it can have consequences. By the way, I'm Jonathan from Memories, and I promote olfactory health and the simple and easy ways we can use smell to promote brain and memory health. So in this video, we're going to break down how smell training works and touch on why it's a great idea. Smell training, or olfactory training, is intentional engagement with odors. It's a way of stimulating your sense of smell and the neural connections that it makes in your brain. All of our senses work through cell receptors, and these translate information from our environment and send them as signals where they get processed in our brain. An interesting fact about our sense of smell is the olfactory sensory neurons, the things that take the information from the outside world and send a signal into our brain, are actually exposed to the air. They're the only sensory neurons for any of our senses that are like this. If you go far enough up your nose, you will make contact with them. They're buried deep in some mucousy hair up in your nose. Because of this environmental exposure, they grow and renew throughout the lifespan. That's right, about every 4 weeks or so, you're producing new sensory neurons for your olfactory system. And because of this renewal, they can also be strengthened and rehabilitated in very interesting ways. Another interesting thing about our sense of smell is the number of different sensory neuron types. To put it into context, our vision has 2 different sensory neuron types. Our sense of touch has 4 different sensory neuron types. But our sense of smell has between 350 and a little over 400 sensory neuron types. So we'll have different sensory neurons to pick up on different smells. And so while an animal like a dog has an overall stronger sense of smell, there are things that a human is particularly good at detecting that will be better than what a dog can detect. So your olfactory system will have different cell receptor types for different kinds of smells. And your sense of smell is trainable in a couple different ways. You can train your nose to better differentiate different smells. If you've ever recognized a smell before, but not been able to label what it is, it's not because of a lack of smell, it might just be a lack of training. Anyone can train their nose to better detect and recognize different odors. But the kind of smell training we're interested in at Memories is strengthening our sense of smell through olfactory training. This is where you rehabilitate a lost or damaged sense of smell or strengthen your existing one. So carrying into the brain from the sensory neurons, a signal is sent in a direct way to the limbic region of the brain. This contains the amygdala, where we process emotion, and the hippocampus, where we process long-term memories. Our sense of smell has a unique pathway, a direct route to these brain regions. For a bit of added context, all of our other senses are first relayed through a brain region called the thalamus. So for an oversimplified example here, if I hear a piece of music that reminds me of a concert I went to, that sound signal is going into my ear, to my thalamus, and then to my hippocampus for a processed long-term memory. But we've all had the experience of smelling something and instantly being carried back somewhere. That smell signal is going into my nose and direct to my hippocampus. So why smell training or olfactory training is so compelling is because when we do intentional smelling on a repeated, consistent basis every day, we're not just going to end up with stronger sensory neurons as they regrow, but we're also stimulating a key neural connection. I liken it to doing kind of a bicep curl, where if you did a bit of bicep curls every day for 3 or 4 months, you're going to change that muscle over time. Our olfactory system remains the most neuroplastic over the lifetime because of this sensory neuron renewal. And so when we do olfactory training, we strengthen these key connections in our brain. And so not only do people improve their capacity to detect odors and also improve how much they can taste food, but people show improvements in memory, in mood, and in cognitive scores. This is brain training in a very literal way. A wine sommelier is someone who quite literally trains their smell for their job. when they've done fMRI brain scans with someone before they start training as a sommelier and then 5 months afterwards, they show increased volume in all of the regions of the brain used for smelling. It quite literally grows your brain. So smell training is quite literally intentional smelling, and it's best done with essential oils in a high concentration and single molecule. And if you're curious about more details on that, you can check out our video on what is olfactory training, where we get into what is and is not going to work for this. Unless we work with food or perfumes or wine, it's quite likely that we've gone most of our lives under-stimulating our sense of smell. And it's why everyone benefits when they do olfactory training. You can always strengthen your existing sense of smell. Just like, even if you already go to the gym, you can still get stronger. Not only does your sense of smell get better, which improves the taste of food, but you're actually stimulating key neural connections in your brain, making this one of the best things to do for your brain.